today either. See you guys.
See ya.
Welcome,
Bye now.
everyone. Welcome, Kiwanians in the room, Kiwanians on Zoom, and welcome guests, and welcome WDBJ7. We're pleased to have you all here today. My name is Michael Obrochta. I'm serving as president of one of the largest Kiwanis clubs in the world and the largest, and I say best, civic organization in the city of Roanoke. So, normally at this point in the agenda, I announce cares and concerns for people. We pass around cards and you sign them, and I'm really pleased to say I've got nothing. Everybody is in great health, apparently. Good for you. On the way up now is Preston Tyler. He's going to do the call for introspection. And Bert Boyd, you're here to do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good afternoon. I mean, are we awake? Good afternoon. I always like to look at what month we're in and see what specialty is of that month. And August is back to school month. And so we're going to deal with kids today. But in doing that, the other day, I have a pear tree in the front of my yard. And squirrels come and the deers come, the groundhogs come, the rabbits come, all of them come at different times. But this particular morning, all of them was around that tree. All of them were eating. And it was so funny. The squirrel even took the pear and nudged it over to the rabbit. I looked at that and I said, what if that was America? What if that was us? No matter our backgrounds, no matter our race, we all can come together and feast from one tree. Wouldn't this world be a better place?
So leave me
Close to the microphone.
Let's do a pledge to allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Please be seated. Bert, thank you for the pledge, and Preston, the introspection. Andre Brooks is on our way up here now. Oh, I'm going to ad lib until she gets up here. When she gets up here, she's going to introduce our guests. When the guests are introduced, she's going to ask you to stand, and she's going to ask the person who invited you to stand with you. She'll ask you to remain standing, and at the end, we'll give you all a rousing welcome. So normally, when we introduce guests, we also tell a little story about why we might have joined our club. Well, nobody's asked me to tell you that story. So, Andre, I'm taking advantage of the microphone right now. Reef Kessler and I have known each other forever. We put in thousands and thousands of hours volunteering in the Boy Scouts organization. And when I was transitioning out of that organization, Reef said, come to lunch. Well, I always say yes to a lunch invitation. He said, it's Kiwanis. I said, what's that? Shortly thereafter, I joined, and now here I am standing up as president. So it just took one invitation. Andre, are we good?
Thank you, Mr. President. I was signing in our last guest for the day. I'd like to introduce James Matthew. Please rise. And his host today is Joe Cobb. And I believe James might be interested in membership. So talk nice to him. And also Dorothy Dickinson, who is with Stephanie Moon Reynolds. And then Darren Smith. And I'm not sure who you with. He just wandered in off the street, and we are delighted to have you. Welcome, all of you. I hope you will enjoy the meeting and consider joining us. We do this every Wednesday. And as our president said, we do a lot of projects for the community, lots and lots of things.
Welcome, guests. Thank you, Andre. So now it's time for you to enjoy my president's message. It's a little different today. You'll recall that a couple of weeks ago, I talked about some physics. I talked about a tipping point, right? Recall, a tipping point is when a small amount of weight is applied to a balanced object and causes that object to suddenly topple or tip. And I wondered if this outreach emphasis we've been having this past year had reached a tipping point. Well, now I'm thinking about some more physics. I'm thinking about momentum. Simply put, momentum is the force that keeps an object moving in a specific direction. Yeah, moving in a specific direction. That's the key to understanding momentum. At the end of the day, when we evaluate the performance of an organization, a business, a sports team, a civic organization, our Kiwanis Club, at the end of the day, it'd be nice to know if we're moving in the proper direction. It'd be nice to know if we have momentum to keep us moving in that direction. Well, this past Monday, our board met. And at our board meeting this past Monday, a total of 5 new member applications were approved. That's impressive. 5 new member applications all at once. I was told by some of you who have been in this club much longer than I, that's not happened in a long, long time, perhaps decades. So that's even more impressive. So, does that mean our club has reached momentum? Does that mean we'll keep moving in the outreach direction? Well, I hope so. I'm not sure, but I hope so. I've seen so many examples of club members during this past year moving us in that direction. I think that's why we got 5 new applications approved all at once. So I say, if that continues, we will have momentum. Thank you very much. So, as interesting as you might have found that, you're going to get treated to an autobiography today. Mr. Bert Boyd is on his way up to share with you a fascinating life well lived. Bert?
This should be interesting. I was just wondering if you look back at your life as a young child, can you recall your earliest recollection of yourself as a child? Your first consciousness of more or less your being. I thought about that for a while because I was like, between 3 and 4 years old, and my awareness of myself is out in the yard in the green grass on a blanket under a tree and with some of my other siblings. I was born in Chesapeake, Virginia, was Norfolk County then before it became a city. And the 5th of 11 children, born of Robert and Alice Boyd. My dad didn't finish grade school. And I can remember as a child seeing all of his books around on a bookshelf he had in the bedroom. And it was all these blueprints where he was teaching himself how to read blueprints, and eventually worked his way up in the Naval Shipyard from a common laborer to a master ship fitter. And my mother, of course, with 11 kids, what she was doing, right? She was, so she inherited like 13 acres of land from her dad. And so we farmed that. as a farm, 13 acres. For us, it was a big farm because it's 5 miles roughly from where our home was. So we had to walk there a lot of times in the summer. But and the house was on an acre, so she had gardens there. So mom did all the gardening, flowers, and my dad was the guy with all the hands. I didn't get into the hands things, and then mechanical. I'm gardener, flower. That's where I come from. And I remember we were early teenagers, ninth grade. Our community church had this meeting and had a civil rights organizer come in and talk to parents and kids about, the fact that integration was going to begin in our neighborhood, and we would no longer need to be bused 12 to 15 miles to high school and elementary school, because the elementary and high school were like 6 or 7 miles closer. And they sort of asked all the kids and parents, were they interested? And there was only 5 of us in high school that responded, and I was one of the only male. I was 5 of us. I was the only male when we first integrated Deep Creek High School in '63. And the first 6 9 months, you can use your imagination what that was like. A lot of verbal, but no physical. So that was a good thing. And the second semester, more or less, of that first year, I got involved in sports and got involved in team. And my mother used to tell me, if you want to be friends, you got to first show yourself as friendly. And so I got involved, showed myself as being friendly, and joined the track team. I was on the football team, had a number. That was it. I didn't. With with the track team, I was a hurdler. Had a high school record at Deep Creek High School for a year, and it was an interesting path. From there, I went on to college, North State University, 2 years, business administration, following my brother's footstep. He was a business administration guy. He didn't finish, but his books encouraged me. I thought they were interesting. And then I think I fell in love the first time. Some of us fall in love more than once. But I fell in love the first time. Went to DC, started working as a bank teller, got married. Got married in June, got drafted in July. So that staying in college helped. So I was in this rush to try to avoid the draft. I was even tried to get on the police force in DC. This was again '69, and as a bank teller there, the first 11 days of that year, there were 8 bank robberies, where people were jumping over the counter robbing banks. So I was probably safer, as hindsight. I did better going to Vietnam than being a police officer. I think. So my boom, I was in Vietnam first of that year, 1970. After basic training and infantry training down in Fort McClellan, Alabama. So I went in as 11B infantry, grunt, as they were called then. And but I was mechanized, so I rode on top of a APC. I didn't have the walker, well, theoretically. My Vietnam experience was interesting. First, it was booby trap wire that I happened to brush against and felt it soon enough to, stop and yell and everybody. And so I'm standing there like an island while the ordnance guy comes and, disconnect the the explosive device. Thank you. We wrote this together, right? Yeah. And then the next was a good friend of mine. He's walking the point, I walked in the rear, and he hit a booby trap, but this one was huge. So part of that is good memory, part of it I don't remember. And then the last thing that was out, we was going out, set up ambush, and of course, here comes friendly fire, our own artillery. So there's a book called Outside the Wire. It was written by a guy in my unit. The first chapter is Snap, Crackle, Pop, and I was in that group. And my girls used to call me Snap, Crackle, and Pop. I couldn't figure it out for the longest what you're talking. But you know, I dealt with that and still deal with some of that. But life is good despite all those things. So when I got back from Vietnam, I did get back. I stayed, got my MOS changed to personnel, came back to Vietnam from Vietnam, went to DC, got my orders changed from Fort Drum, New York to Fort Story, Virginia, in Virginia Beach. So I was right at home, was able to go to college part-time and work full-time, got my degree. At that time, Norfolk and Western was recruiting on campus. I got recruited as a sales rep, always writing on my goals. I want to be, join a Fortune 500 company. Well, I did with Norfolk and Western, subsequently being Norfolk Southern, but had a chance to do a strike, even be an engineer, you know, brakeman, all that stuff. But I didn't have the strength in the elbow to stay on. So I resigned there and came back to Virginia. And that's where I think my calling began as a advocate for veterans. So I spent 30 years with the state of Virginia Department of Veterans Service. And basically it's 23 field officers at that time all over the state, assisted veterans at getting their benefits, their survivors, applying for compensation, assisting them with writing the claims, appealing their claims. And I think it was 92, Governor Warner appointed me as the director of the agency. And that's when we had a lot of turmoil at the Virginia Veteran Care Center. We converted that from a private owned to state owned. And later we reorganized to a different structure with the headquarters in Richmond as opposed to Roanoke. And I became the deputy commissioner. And after 30 years, politics changed. And I was I was invited to leave if I was offered 5 additional years towards my pension. So I gave them the Queen's Wave and in 2010, and I haven't looked back. And it allowed me to pursue my passions, some that I had discovered, some that I hadn't. Flowers has always been there. So the our neighborhood association, the city allowed us to build 4 large gardens at Huff Lane Park, which I manage with my association, sort of. This year was really critical. The weather and heat and everything, they're in bad shape. Don't go out there now. But at one of our meetings, Rupert asked if I was interested. I didn't know anything about Kiwanis, and he said, you know, you should get involved. I'm getting older. You can kind of step in and do some things I'm not able to do. And then talked to Mike Proctor, and he said, you know, you can pursue your passions and things. And my passion was and has been for the last, I don't know, 6, 7 years is sustainable transportation. And there are some things that happen in the Kiwanis Club that's allowed me to get involved in environmental issues. I've pushed the city and prodded them to try to encourage them to look at federal grants so we can kind of increase the awareness of our community on sustainable transportation, look at opportunities to build out the infrastructure for that, because, you know, this transition is happening a lot sooner than a lot of people have really started to realize. And so that's what I do. Part of that was my commitment to the Cybertruck, because it's a form of sustainable transportation, and it was odd and it was catch people's attention, but it does raise a whole lot of questions. Everywhere we go and drive, we got to talk about, and you're talking about electric transportation and that transition. So that's kind of where, oh, the last thing, I was here 2 Sundays ago, I think it was, had an event my church anniversary. And, you know, you have these ministers going around and they were giving this word to people that they were receiving spiritually. And I said, okay, that's good. Everybody seemed to be responding to what he was saying. I said, I don't know, he don't have anything for me. Let's go ahead and finish. And so he's about finished. He walks over to me and said, okay, so you're going to be involved in teaching. I don't know whether it be business or academics, but teaching, and you're going to be involved in mentoring. So you need to keep pursuing. So it was sort of a conviction to me of the things that I've been doing as far as trying to mentor younger people on changes that happen in the workforce, and also to teach what I can about the transition to sustainable transportation, reducing the impact of climate change from greenhouse gases, and decrease the amount of carbon or fossil fuels that we're burning in the country. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, where I am, what I've done, and I'm most proud of being an advocate for veterans in Virginia. Thank you.
Absolutely fascinating. So WDB7, are you still recording? So I noticed that they hadn't fully set up when I was up here opening the meeting. So we're going to do a retake. Here's the way that's going to work. I'm going to pretend I'm opening the meeting again. You're going to pretend you're wildly enthusiastic about being here, and WDB7 will catch that on film. All right? Okay, here we go. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Kiwanis Club of Roanoke, the largest civic organization in the Roanoke Valley and one of the largest Kiwanis clubs in the world. I'm Michael Obrochta. It's a pleasure for me to be serving as your president. Thank you very much. Say, Bert, did you take my piece of paper from up here? Bring that back. Thank you. So, I talked earlier, really excited about five new members all at once. I mean, that's pretty incredible. Well, today I've got the privilege of handing out, issuing, and awarding 3 permanent badges. So the first one is for club member Tom Blake. In other words, he's accomplished all the items on his permanent badge checklist, and he's earned a permanent badge. Now, Tom is on Zoom. All right. So, Tom, this is for you. We really appreciate you being an active member of our club. Everybody now is applauding for you, Tom. Next is Taylor Medley. She's on her way up here. So Taylor joined our club just a short time ago and immediately got involved with no need for encouragement. The thing I'll add to that is Taylor runs a very effective volunteer program at Carilion Hospital. She is my wife's boss. Now, Hugh Brown, I'd like to call you up here. Are you in the audience? Yeah, come on up. There's a little story that I'm going to tell about you. So this year we did start with corporate memberships, and it's turned out to be a real win-win, right? And indeed, Hugh's firm has joined as a corporate member. So they get one primary member, and they get as many secondary members as they want. Well, what the heck? Hugh's been the secondary member. He's been here every week. We're giving you your own badge. I'm excited about that kind of stuff. Okay. So we got some announcements. Last week I told you the big news from the board meeting, right? How many new members all at once? Well done. You listened to at least that part of my announcement so far. So a couple other things going on at the board meeting. We'll make announcements about those during the next couple of weeks. We also had a nature park meeting, right? Nature park. We built a playground in the Melrose neighborhood. We're now building a very large nature park next to the playground in the Melrose neighborhood. And so that project team met this week. The foundation board meets today, immediately following this meeting. Membership, your meeting tomorrow morning. Grant application deadline is tomorrow. The money we raise throughout the year, some of which comes from our foundation and some comes from KPED, the money we raise each year funds a lot of grants. We get a lot of grant applications and we love that. Tomorrow's the deadline. So if one of you is working with a nonprofit in the Roanoke Valley and they haven't gotten their application in, now you know the deadline. We'd love to have them get it in. So, Environment Committee meets on Monday. Bart talked affectionately about the fact that our presence in the environment space was attraction for you to join the club. Encourage you to join that Environment Committee meeting. Some of the leaders of this club are leaving town to go to Portsmouth for the annual district conference. Those delegates will be representing our interests and telling stories to the rest of the Capital District about how well our club is doing. One of the stories they'll talk about is the Ducky Derby. Thank you, Don Witt. You've been sharing that effort for us. There are flyers on the tables about that if you want to participate. And we are in second place, which is not bad, but since we're the largest club in the district, I'm thinking first place would be more appropriate for us. And I'm told this little story. I'm told for 5 seconds this past week, we were in first place for 5 seconds. And our competitor creeped on us online and out-donated us at the last moment. Can we take that back? I don't know. This last announcement is so important that it's going to be made by incoming President Jean Bollendorf.
Thank you, Mike. Hello, everyone. On your tables is a sign-up sheet for committees for the next year, starting October 1. This is very important for me because, you know, we do a lot of work in our club and we need a lot of hands helping, and idle hands are the devil's workshop. Just saying. Some tables may not have a sheet, but you could just sign up on a different one. Everybody who was on a committee for this past year has been put back on the same committee and in the same chair position, except for our service leadership program. So if you want to stay in that position, that's great. You can just leave your name there. If you don't want to be there, or you want to go on a different committee, you can mark your name through, add yourself to a different. I would love it if everyone would take at least 2 to 3 projects. Thank you.
Thank you. Pay attention to what Jean just said. Get yourself on the committee that matches your interests and abilities. So wouldn't you know it, it's time for another outreach award. So this club member that I'm now going to talk about not only sponsored 2 new members early in the year, for which he already received an outreach award, he has now just sponsored a 3rd new member all in 1 year. And he is on his way up here now. Where is he? Come on up. This is not going to hurt me as much as it's going to hurt you, Bart. Bart, you're pretty photogenic, so we're going to face the TV camera right there. So, Bart, not only are you getting another outreach pin, hold that up for the camera, right there. But since you're so active elsewhere in the community, I'm giving you a piece of clothing to wear your new pin on. If you go over to Virginia Western and you look at the pickleball courts that have been newly built, you'll see a recognition sign with Bart Wilner's name on it. Thank you, Bart Wilner. Well done. So those 5 new club members are now going to get called out from the podium. LOA has joined as a corporate member, and Ashton King is going to be the primary representative. And he was sponsored by Don Wilson with a big assist from Ken Briggs. And he's on Zoom, I just heard. Good. Bauer Heating and Air, as you know, they were the leading bidder on our Auction of the Star this year. They've joined as a corporate member. And, well, I sponsored them. So, United Way, Chris Rouse, he has joined the club. He was sponsored by Bart Wilner. That's why I gave Bart a outreach pin. And Chris has been coming week after week with uninterrupted, perfect attendance. Thank you for that. Chip Backpacks, right? Chip, right? Rachel Hopkins joined our club, sponsored by our own Judy Clark. And Vice Mayor Joe Cobb has returned to our club as a member, sponsored by David Hart. Thank you, all of you that sponsored new members, and new members, welcome back. So we're running a little tight on time, so we're not going to do brag bucks. Well, except for the one I'm going to do. The rest of you can have to wait till next week. So you'll see why this is important. I got a call Sunday night. There was an emergency call from the emergency room in Roanoke Memorial Hospital. And I had learned in that call that our own John Montgomery had been in a really serious car accident on Sunday night. John was so concerned that his emergency situation might somehow impede his ability to get everything he needed to do ready for Monday's board meeting that he was calling. Let me repeat that. John was not as concerned about his own emergency room situation as he was about Kiwanis. We all know John. We're not surprised at that. So after I expressed some amazement at his situation, after I expressed some concern about his health, after I offered my assistance to him in any way, I then asked him if he needed his head examined. And indeed, I learned later on that very evening, he did have a CT scan of his brain. John, you're coming up here now. Come over here, John. And I am awarding you, John, get up there. This is photogenic. I am awarding you this magnifying glass so you can have your head examined on a more frequent basis. All right. Thank goodness it's time for Stephanie to come up here and introduce our speaker.
Good afternoon, fellow Kiwanians and guests. It is my great honor to introduce our distinguished guest speaker, Rita Joyce. As a cherished friend and fellow member of Shiloh Baptist Church, Rita embodies the spirit of dedication that aligns so closely with the values of our Kiwanis Club. Rita brings 44 years of banking experience to her current role as Community Development Officer, Assistant Vice President for Bank of Botetourt, where she focuses on community engagement at the Melrose Plaza of Goodwill. Her impressive career includes pivotal roles at First Citizens Bank, Signet Bank, and Legacy Financial Group. And she has been recognized as a leading mortgage loan officer for over a decade. Beyond her professional accomplishments, Rita's commitment to community service is truly inspiring. Her personal journey marked by the tragic loss of her son, Joey, to gun violence, drove her to establish Fed Up. And I know you all want to know, what does that acronym mean? Families expecting deliverance using prayer. And this group was established in 2005. This nonprofit, which achieved a 501c3 status in 2023, provides crucial support and resources to families affected by gun violence. The city of Roanoke has recognized Fed Up's impactful outreach with a proclamation for, and I quote, "Go Orange," end of quote, gun violence awareness, reflecting the profound difference it has made in our community. Rita's motto, and I quote, "Reach one, teach one," end of quote, perfectly captures her unwavering belief in the power of compassion and community support values that resonate deeply with the mission of Kiwanis to serve children and communities. Her personal experience has profoundly shaped her advocacy, making her contributions both heartfelt and transformative. As we listen to Rita today, we are reminded of the impact one person can make through dedication and empathy. Please join me in warmly welcoming Rita Joyce.
Good afternoon to the members, guests of this great organization. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak before you, especially thanking Councilwoman Stephanie Moon Reynolds for the invite. It's always difficult for me to talk about my organization, but before I do that, I want to break the ice a little bit. Stephanie had mentioned that I've been in banking for about 44 years. When I walked in this door this morning, I got my start at a bank called Bank of Virginia. And who did I see but that fearless leader that when I entered those doors in 1980, none other than Guy Bird. How about that? Now, you wonder, how do you remember someone that long ago? Because he was impactful. Okay? So you never know where your life leads you, where you start. And I was a 20-year-old, first time working at a bank, and had the opportunity to work with great leaders like Guy Bird. I've got a couple of speeches, and I was torn between which one I wanted to do. So I was going to be real formal because I felt like, oh, this Kiwanis group, you know, they need to hear the formality of everything. But as I sit there and as Stephanie pretty much did the whole formality speech for me, thank goodness I had my backup. Always have a backup. Again, my name is Rita Joyce. Y'all remember that. If you can't remember that, say rejoice. Can I get you to say rejoice? Okay. So if you can't remember me, just remember rejoice. It's on my tags too, so in case y'all see me, just blow the horn, okay? But again, I want to thank you all. But before I begin, I really would like to show. Oh, keep ad-libbing? Okay, it's coming on. Okay. We're going to share this video in just a second. This video illustrates what Fed Up means to me and to those who have been impacted by gun violence. Still waiting? Okay, okay. Okay. Now, Fed Up was formed in 2005, as Stephanie said, after my son Joey was killed in 2004. He was my baby boy, and his life was taken at the tender age of 24. Now, Joey left behind 4 beautiful children, 3 girls and 1 boy. Now, the youngest was only 8 months old and never got a chance to know his father. When Joey was killed, I knew I had to transform this incredible negative situation into something that could offer hope and help to others. Later, I met another mother who had also lost her son. I reached out to her, attended the funeral of her son, and offered to talk, knowing the pain that she was enduring. That was the beginning of Fed Up. As we began connecting with other families who had faced similar tragedies. Fed Up stands for Families Expecting Deliverance Using Prayer. Our mission is simple. We are fed up with gun violence. Often when people think about gun violence, especially in certain demographics, they label the victims as if they somehow deserved it. Perhaps as bad kids, from unsupervised homes, or involved in gangs. Some of that may be true, but not all. Fed Up's responsibility is to raise awareness about the devastating impact these senseless acts of violence have on the families left behind. The emptiness, I say the emptiness that is left after such a tragedy is indescribable unless you've experienced it. One of the primary things we do as an organization is to reach out to these families. Right now, we are focused on the city of Roanoke, operating with a team of volunteers. None of us are paid. We do this from the bottom of our hearts. We visit families in their homes, pray with them, and provide resources, including monthly grief support meetings, where families can connect and share their experience. In 2023, Fed Up became a 501c3 nonprofit, which has allowed us to secure some funding to further our cause. Still, all of our work is done by volunteers. Our board members, including myself as the current president, we have formed close bonds with the families impacted by gun violence. We also have counselors who assist in our support sessions, and they have become like family to us. Fed Up hosts 2 annual programs. The first is our Christmas of Hope event, and we hold that every December. This program is designed to support the children left behind after a loved one has been lost to gun violence. Remember I told you my Joey left 4 kids behind? When there is a loss in a family structure, not only the loss of the life, but the financial impact is felt with these families. We started this initiative in 2005, recognizing that these families often needed financial and emotional support to get through their first majority holiday without their loved ones. The first of everything is hard. The first anniversary of their death, their first birthday, the first holiday. It is very hard for families to endure the first. Last year, we helped over 23 children who lost a parent or relative to gun violence with our Christmas of Hope program. Our second major event is the annual prayer breakfast, which coincides with National Gun Violence Awareness Day on the first weekend in June. The city of Roanoke has issued a proclamation recognizing this day, and we encourage organizations, employers, and the community to wear orange that weekend in support of National Gun Violence Awareness. Last year, as Stephanie had mentioned, Roanoke City helped us with our proclamation, and we also had the Roanoke City Public Schools participate in our National Gun Violence Awareness Week. We distributed wristbands, and they did a display of art of how they felt about the impact of gun violence. At the prayer breakfast, we honored the most recent victims of gun violence. And if you get an opportunity to go to our website, we had 23 empty chairs at that event. That was 23 lives lost to gun violence. There's more information about our events and our work. You can go to our website, which is www.fedupwithgunviolence.org, and we have a Facebook page, Families Expecting Deliverance Using Prayer. Fed Up will continue its mission until gun violence ends, and even then, we will remain because the families continue to hurt long after losing their loved ones. It's been 20 years since I lost my Joey. But every time I visit a new family, I relive the pain I felt 20 years ago. My hope is to keep advocating, to raise awareness in our communities about the true impact of gun violence and to foster empathy and understanding. I firmly believe that there is hope. I believe that we can come to understanding that guns should not be used to settle conflicts. We live in a society where conflicts are too often resolved with violence instead of dialogue. We as a community, this community, must work hard to understand the root cause of gun violence and how we can make a difference. I believe in the power of each one, teach one, to bring awareness. My mission is to make people think twice before picking up a gun. Gun violence respects no one. It can affect any of us. It happened to me. Never I imagine in a million years that it would impact me. And I would be standing here with an organization called Fed Up. Never did I think that this is the organization that I would be heading because of my loss. I appreciate your time. And I hope that you will follow us on Facebook and then visit our website. We're always looking for donations. Again, we work hard with or without the donations. We don't get paid because we know that our heart is in the root of the community of which we live. And we certainly know the impact of gun violence. If I wanted to really just share just a moment, I want to take you back 20 years ago when it happened to me. I went to bed like it was a normal night. Everything was fine in my household. To receive a call at 2 a.m. that your child has been shot. And before I could get to the hospital, he had already passed away. An unbearable loss, especially to a mother. I can't begin to tell you. I can only share my story. But what I know that the community can do is by listening to my stories and stories like other families, that your empathy towards gun violence would be looked at differently. We seem to take note of mass shootings in schools, in churches, but the singleness of it seems to get left out. I'm one of those. That's why Fed Up do what we do, to make sure that those singleness, those families that lost an individual would know that there's hope for tomorrow. Our grief meetings with those at least 25 family members that come, fourth Tuesday of every month. When I tell you I have saw the transformation of some of those families because of what we have opened the doors to do for them. Because if you understand that hurt people hurt people. So we try to pull those families in and change their mindset and give them hope, embrace them, help them go through it. And we're going to try whatever we need to do to get the counseling they need, the financial support they need. And we also are looking right now to start some type of legal advocacy to help them to bring justice to so many unsolved cases of our families. I thank you for your time, and I'm hoping
Cycling through. Maybe take a question.
questions. I want you all to definitely see the video, but questions, please. I want questions. Yes. She wants to know, the orange is for National Gun Violence Awareness. It's an organization that started years ago because a mother lost her daughter. And I just think that that organization just chose orange, just like breast cancer chose pink, you know, and some of the other organizations have their color theme. And I think that that organization, the National Gun Violence Awareness, just made orange the color. And I'm sure there's a significance to the orange. I don't know exactly what it is, but we want to make sure, as you can see, I'm orange out here, but I try to bring, these are the wristbands that we give out to the students and anybody that wants them. I didn't bring any with me, but I promote in gun violence as much as I can. Yes, sir.
So, what is wrong? Sweat.
Well, for Christmas of Hope, we're always looking for toys for the young. And we get a list of all those children, their ages, and a wish list. So part of what Kiwanis can do is to provide toys, but also come to the event and just share with the families that you care. All some of the families want to know is that somebody cares. I hope that helped. Any other questions? Yes, sir. We meet at the Freedom First Community Center on Patterson Avenue. I don't know the exact address, but it's on Patterson. It's at the Freedom First building. It's a community center right there connected to it. Any other questions?
We're going to give you some applause. So we weren't able to show the video as you had asked us to do. So we're going to make that available to our members after the meeting. All right. So in the meantime, we'd like to give you an honorarium check, and this particular check is made out to Fed Up right here.
Thank you so much.
If you have a additional comment or question for our speaker, she's going to stay here for a few minutes after the meeting. So with that, the largest club of Roanoke with 5 new members is now adjourned. There you go. Sure thing. So what was behind the decision to come and record today? Do you know?